Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
All right, guys, welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us on this Monday, June 23rd, 2025. We're going to be joined by Colonel Rob Maness. We'll get a live report out of Israel with our reporter on the ground, Aaron Lavarco, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. We, of course, had to go on the air on Saturday evening. As I told the audience then, I just kind of thought something might happen. So did many of you. And we actually planned our evening accordingly, had dinner reservations at 4:45 in the afternoon. That's how confident I was I would have to be back at the desk on Saturday night. And we were. And we went for a good 2+ hours on the breaking news of our U.S. military striking the nuclear facilities in Iran. Well, while we're on the air now, today, 1:02 p.m. Central, 2:02 Eastern Standard, June 23rd, there are reports that Iran is targeting our bases, U.S. bases in the Middle East with missiles, where reports are early on. They have all been knocked down. Thank the Lord for that. But that, of course, is pushing us into another territory. And what other nations are going to get involved? Apparently, the president of Russia, the former president of Russia, Medvedev, has said that they and other countries are going to make sure that Iran does indeed have a nuclear weapon. We're going to get to that with Colonel Rob Maness, as well as Aaron on the ground in Israel. Here is a tweet just put out by President Trump. Did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the N-word, nuclear, and saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads to Iran? Did he really say that? Or is it just a figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know immediately. He puts immediately in all caps. The N-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss. By the way, if anyone thinks our hardware was great over the weekend, far and away the strongest and best equipment we have, 20 years advanced over the pack, is our nuclear submarines. They are the most powerful and lethal weapons ever built, and just launched the 30 Tomahawks. All 30 hit their mark perfectly. So in addition to our great fighter pilots, thank you to the captain and crew, end quote. Joining me now is Colonel Rob Maness. Colonel, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon, Brandon. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, my friend. We had a great program on Saturday night. A panel, you and I and many others. It's at worldviewtube.com if you missed it, folks. Got a lot of great conversations. It's not old news what we discussed Saturday night. It was about what happened and where it's going and why it was a problem for many of us. And of course, now we have this tweet by President Trump. Give us your initial reactions before I drill down on it and ask you more questions based on what he said here. But I'd just like your initial response to this tweet by the president, please.
On Medvedev's tweet, look, Medvedev essentially confirmed what our intelligence, especially Israeli intelligence, has apparently been saying, is that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon and nuclear weapons program, which is interesting. Now, President Putin didn't say that. Oftentimes, Medvedev will float things out there, and then sometimes Putin comes back in and corrects it. Sometimes he just lets it sit. This is probably one I'll bet you it will sit, but I could be wrong on that. I'm wrong all the time when it comes to that kind of prediction.
So, Colonel, what did you think of President Trump responding, though, about how advanced our weaponry is when you have, I know Russia's got their Satan II, as we call it. They got some pretty advanced weaponry that I've seen guys with many stars on their shoulders telling Congress we have no answer for that. So why is President Trump saying this? Is this just him being the president and commander in chief and saying, we're a big military, don't mess with us? When many, again, experts have told us, from Peter Pry to the many guys with stars on their shoulder, we don't have an answer to some of the hypersonic weapons of Russia, supersonic.
That's right, we don't, but we have them completely outclassed in other areas, especially stealth technology, as we just demonstrated. And that's probably where he's coming from, is that, hey, I just demonstrated the technology from, it's a 20-year-old airplane now from the late 2000s that we fielded operationally already just this weekend, and how effective it continues to be, especially against Russian integrated air defense systems. If they even turned any radars on, you would have seen even more of its effectiveness. I'm not sure if they did turn any radars on, because the Israelis have been destroying their radars every time they get turned on. And you, of course, with a surface-to-air missile, most of them you need a radar to operate it, find the target, track it, acquire it, and then fly the missile at the target. So that's probably where the president's coming from. He's coming off what looks to be a highly successful, at least the raid. The bomb runs themselves and the strike package and the miniature air campaign that we started. I still believe that there may be more airstrike packages coming, depending on what we find out was our level of success on the mission, which is to keep the Iranians from getting nuclear weapons. That's the mission.
Now we're getting a video footage, if it is accurate, I think it probably is, of citizens running to safe places as Iran is lobbing missiles over to our bases in the Middle East. What do you make of this escalation? Thankfully, I guess all of them have been knocked down, but I am also hearing reports that we have some soldiers that have been injured. So I don't know if that's from running and shrapnel or what. But what is your response to this escalation?
Well, I wouldn't call it an escalation yet. This is the response that we've been expecting from the Iranian government based on our attack on them. So it's to be expected. And reporting showing that they actually gave the Qataris, who they knew would tell us, a heads up about this and message that they were intentionally giving them a heads up in order to, not to minimize any casualties. Late reporting just before I came on air with you was that there had not been any U.S. casualties from the missiles themselves. Now, the issue is that there are a lot of Patriot interceptor missiles going up. Airplanes are shooting things down. So things fall from the sky that are called metal fragments and hard plastic fragments because these things get atomized a lot. So you have millions of pieces of hot burning metal falling down to the ground. And generally, if they're close enough to the target, they're going to be in the target area. And of course, what does that hurt the most is human beings and animals and those kind of things. Just stand by. Initial reports from the battlefield are almost always wrong. Always wrong. So don't get ahead of let's not get ahead of ourselves. But, if they really did give us a heads up, and I think that's why the president called the Situation Room meeting with his national security team for this afternoon at that specific time, which happened this morning when they called the meeting, is that they got a heads up on this. That tells me that the Iranians may be a rational actor instead of the whack jobs that we've all been thinking they were going to be if they ever got a nuclear weapon. And that makes a difference because that means that they may be able to be deterred under the nuclear deterrence umbrella of the United States Armed Forces. And that would be good news if that bears out to be true. So for those who are joining us now on the VCY Radio America Network and WRS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and even Worldview Tube, who did not see and hear our Saturday night special broadcast with our panel, can you recap your concerns about this strike and whether, if you were advising the president, would you have advised that strike that took place? The initial B-2 bomber strike?
Correct.
Look, I don't have access to the intelligence, but if he were able to get the questions answered that I asked to his satisfaction, and those were, why does the United States need to do this, and why do we need to do it now, which addresses the level of threat to the United States, not to Israel, then absolutely, had I been in the room and my two questions had been satisfactorily answered, I would have recommended that he proceed with it.
Being that it would have to have a national security implication for our country, not just Israel.
Oh, absolutely. Israel's national security implication should have had nothing to do with whether the commander-in-chief made a decision to put Americans in harm's way. A lot of people talk about boots on the ground and not wanting that. Well, I don't want any American boots, and there are boots in those cockpits of the men and women flying those in those B-2 bombers and all those 125 American military aircraft. So that's a lot of people right there. The 8th Air Force in World War II lost over 30,000 Americans killed in action, which is, and when you compare that to a place like Iwo Jima that has its own memorial in Arlington, you find out exactly what that means. So let's stop this whole discussion about only being concerned about boots on the ground. Let's be concerned about putting Americans in harm's way and make sure that we're doing it only in our national interest. And that's why Donald Trump was reelected. And if it turns out that this response strike is, some people are calling it ceremonial, folks, don't buy into that language. Don't get giddy yet. It's too early. But if it does turn out that this was a rational response only intended to save face by the Iranians and they're talking to the United States, that's a big victory for the American people and a big victory for President Donald Trump. It means that he was right, that we are right in the approach we're taking to peace through strength.
What do you make of threats of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, they've threatened it, I think, 11 or 12 times in the last 20 years, and they've never been able to shut it down. But they do still have one fairly effective military capability, and that's sea mining. You don't need a large navy. You don't need big boats to do sea mining, and that's where they do it at, in the Straits of Hormuz. So they could do some of that and create havoc and set some tankers on fire, strike some Navy vessels of ours and the other countries and allies around there. But it's going to be more of a harassment thing. And by the way, the price of oil has been going down this morning.
I was pounding the desk, as the audience knows, all last week. My big concern is the terror cells that were not being talked about. My concern was that, the president, I didn't think was warning the American people, hey, if I do this, this is what we have to be aware of. Turns out, thankfully, Kash Patel, which again, of course, would be the president's man, so indirectly the president himself, through Kash Patel, the FBI director, warning that they were monitoring potential Hezbollah terror cells, Iranian terror cells in the U.S. And now it's come out by sources, Times of Israel, many other sources, that Iran threatened to activate U.S. sleeper cells in response to any strike on nuclear sites. Apparently, President Trump was warned this through someone else, back channels, while at the economic meetings with other nations in Canada, that they threatened, hey, we might just activate sleeper cells, which in one sense, again, I want the audience to know, this is proof that we were right. We weren't stirring up doom and gloom, as some people would say, or scaring people. We were doing what we're supposed to do, reporting the facts as we understood them to be. And now it turns out that's exactly the right response based on our years of research and interviewing former intelligence guys and Islamic experts. I want you to comment on that when you come back, Colonel, from that break. And then I know I need to let you go so you can get ready for your broadcast at 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern. Colonel Rob Maness, his website, robmaness.com. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. And then go to our reporter on the ground in Israel. Find out what is the latest on the ground over there with Aaron Lavarco, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Be sure to stay tuned for Crosstalk at 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern at vcyamerica.org. We'll be right back. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. If you want to catch the 2+ hour panel with a great group of experts from Saturday night. By the way, we did huge How does Donald Trump say it? Huge numbers on Saturday night. We did big numbers. So thank you to all of you that tune in when there's big breaking news. I guess you guys know he's gonna put on a suit and go to the desk. And sure enough, it's interesting because we have apps like for iPhone, Android, and we can do a push notification. So some of you get our push notifications. You know he's going live. Others of you, I think, just tune in to see, is he going live? I mean, this is a big deal. He's probably going live. And so the word spread quickly, though, because we asked people to tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social, all that. And Logan says our numbers were some of the biggest we've ever had, which we had some of our biggest numbers ever the night that Iran was hitting Israel. And then that first night. And then Saturday night, I guess we beat those numbers. So again, people are looking for a network, not people that are going to be a megaphone for the CIA. And frankly, I think that's what Fox has become. That's my opinion, folks. But I had to turn on Fox a little this weekend to see what's going on. I thought, why don't they just run commercials saying brought to you by the CIA? Brought to you by the CIA and your tax dollars. Because in my opinion, that's what Fox News has become. The mouthpiece of the Central Intelligence Agency or the military-industrial complex. I mean, they might as well stop running the pharmaceutical ads, which I think RFK Jr. is going to outlaw those pretty quick. And they can just start running in TV spots for all the military-industrial complex firms. So if you want to go and watch a network that's going to tell you what the CIA wants you and the Pentagon and the military-industrial complex wants you to know, and only that, then you should do great at Fox. Again, this is my opinion, not to be confused with any other guests. This is just Brannon's opinion. But that's what I heard this weekend over there. I didn't hear the give and take and the other options, the other sides of the story, as we were hearing on our panel, and even some panelists challenging each other at times, which makes for great television, to be honest with you. I never tell them don't mix it up. I don't tell them to mix it up, but I never tell them don't, because it does make for good TV, because people want to see the free flow of ideas, debating the ideas. That's what is good, to debate. But that's not what I heard on some of these networks over the weekend. So no wonder our numbers are growing. They're skyrocketing, to be honest. And many people are saying, I'm just finding out about you. We just found out about you. I'm like, well, we've been here for a long time, 35 years, and doing professional radio since 1995. What is that? What is that, Logan? 30 years in itself? So apparently people are looking for a network that will give them the truth, not the talking points of the military-industrial complex. And of course, then we brought in Bible prophecy. So be encouraged, folks, because people are looking for deeper analysis. I hate to say it, but I watched more Fox News this weekend than I have in a long time. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is a network that's really for people that are simpletons. This is a network for really people that are an inch deep and a mile wide. Wow. And it got boring really fast. So again, no wonder we're growing. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, presenting all the sides we can, and let the chips fall where they may, right? Join me again as Colonel Rob Maness of robmaness.com, robmaness.com. You can follow him on X. I think he's got 100 and some odd thousand people following him on X now, doesn't he, Logan? Got a big following over there now. And his show every day at 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern. Colonel, the question before the break that I was going to pose about the carousels. What do you make of the fact that now we're hearing it? What we were reporting was true. We were concerned about carousels in the U.S., and we still are. I'm very concerned about the 4th of July. You folks, dear friends, listening friends, we care about you. I care about you. And you, it's a free country. You do what you want. I don't want jihadis and terrorists, changing our way of life. But I'll tell you something. I would be very careful going to big events with lots and lots of people. 4th of July to me seems like a very soft, rich target, 4th of July. I'm very concerned. Pray for the country. Pray we get through the 4th of July. Let's pray we get through everything good here. But I'm very concerned about the 4th of July, Colonel.
Yeah, there'll be a big celebration, as there is every year in Washington, right outside of the White House on the mall there. So it'll be a big target. They'll harden it up as much as they can, but it's difficult to do that without reducing crowd size. You're right on. Your reporting has not been doomsaying and getting people excited over nothing. It's accurate. In the Biden administration, millions of people came through the border, and we know that I think reporting that I saw this morning said that the Customs and Border Patrol caught over 1,500 Iranians and let 458 of them go. Caught them and let them go. So we know there are terror cells here. I've been talking about it for years now, trying to raise awareness of this issue. Luckily, DHS Secretary Noem did put an elevated terror threat alert out, I think this morning or last night. That's the first time that's happened in a very long time nationwide. And that tells you the seriousness of the intelligence that we do have. And if Kash Patel is out there trying to roll them up, then the intelligence is much better than I thought we had. And that's probably one of the things this team's been working really hard on since they took over, was tracking those kind of people down.
What was that, Logan? What's the news? CNN is reporting that President Trump does not want any more engagement in the Middle East, Colonel.
That's good news. That's exactly what we voted for, was this type of activity. Look, the unfortunate fact is that once you enter a war like we did, sometimes you don't get a vote, but it looks like the Iranians are behaving in a rational way and are trying to de-escalate this conflict by the way they notified people, including us, in order to minimize casualties. But they said they had to respond because they're obviously worried about their regime, because the Iranian people are fed up with this. And inside and outside the country, if they will come together and kick the mullahs out of their government and out of their military, they could take that government over again and set up their version of what a free country looks like, instead of all this totalitarianism, no matter who's been in office, including the last Shah of Iran was completely totalitarian.
Do you, part one of a three-part Hezbollah series, this is from my friend Todd Bensman, who is now the lead advisor to Tom Homan, the border czar. And Todd and I discussed this so many times. And here we go. Unit 910. We discussed Unit 910 so many times on Brannon Howse Live. I'm sure we brought it up here at Worldview Radio. Unit 910 in America. Okay, this is the Hezbollah Unit 910. This is a headline from 2018. Recruitment, targeting Jews, and building with a doorman. It goes into this assassination squad, Unit 910, Hezbollah's Elite 910. The second part was a treasure hunt for fake documents, weapons, explosives. Part 3, Hezbollah's clandestine terror wing in America, the Michigan mystery, and it goes on from there. So there we go. This is something we were talking about with Todd, but he was writing about it since 2018. Speak to this, if you would, Colonel.
Absolutely. Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy around the world, mostly in the Middle East, in the Middle Eastern countries where they have influence. They've lost a lot of that influence, and those units that are in the United States are likely almost cut off communications-wise at this point, because the Israelis have done such a good job at taking down all of their military, defensive, and intelligence systems. Which is why the B-2s and that package didn't get fired at on the way in or detected, and didn't get detected or fired on the way out, not even with anti-aircraft artillery, from what I understand. So that's all good news. That means that hopefully they're out here floating in the wind, so to speak, and disconnected from their command and control, and to make it easier for our counterterrorism folks to find them, locate them, track them, and pick them up and get them out of this country at a minimum.
One more article, Colonel. This one is from 2007. Todd Bensman. Iran's push into Nicaragua. And of course, then we got all the ones that have been coming through Venezuela. So again, for people who think the terracels aren't here, they're guys like Todd Bensman who have been on this for so many years. Iran's push into Nicaragua, and again, that doesn't count the ones that we know were in Venezuela, and the fake passports that Venezuela was making, and the fake passports Iran was making to get their people through Mexico into America.
All valid concerns, and we're right to be focusing on them. I would rather we focus on this issue and the enemy that's south of our border that's working with these folks than anything else at this point.
Yeah. RobManus.com, RobManus.com. I know you'll be back with us on Brannon Howse Live tonight for an update. Colonel, as always, thank you for your support and for your great reporting and service to our country.
Thank you, Brannon.
Colonel Rob Manus checking in. Again, RobManus.com, and you can follow him on X as well. And again, he'll be back tonight on Brannon Howse Live. Joining me now is our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. Aaron, welcome back to the broadcast. I know we were texting over the weekend. You were running back and forth to the bunker. How is everything now in your nation?
Hey, Brandon, great to be back with you. Things right now are exciting. And I've been listening to what you've been talking about with Colonel Rob. And he quoted President Trump saying that it doesn't look like the president wants to retaliate to these strikes on the American bases. And I'll tell you why I think he doesn't want to retaliate. Because we are doing it, Brannon. Our Air Force are in the skies right now pounding the Iranians. And how are we doing this? Remember the other day when I used an analogy of a wrestling match, a tag team. That's exactly what's been going on with America and us here in Israel. We've been planning this for a long time. We've been working in such sync. The timing, the coordinations, the military intelligence, the cooperation has been incredible. What happened? Donald Trump unleashed us about 9 days ago when we attacked the Iranians. What have we been doing? We've been taking out 50% of the Iranian launching pads. They're launching pad missiles. The remaining 50%, we now know where they are. Every time they fire a missile, Brannon, we know exactly where it's fired from because they have to bring it outside, and we are just, they're easy targets. So while the Iranians have just in the last hour been attacking United States bases, Donald Trump doesn't need to retaliate because we are doing it. And let me quote 20 minutes ago, our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This is what he said. He said, we are close to eliminating the threat. We are close to eliminating the threat. What does that say, Brannon? It says that, you know, the way I see it, it's almost like a snake or a caterpillar that's had its head chopped off, but it's still crawling. It's still got life. I think this is a pathetic retaliation. No one got injured. They're boasting how great their missiles were. Very interesting. One of the
hold right there. That's the music. Can you hear the music? I don't know if you can hear the music.
No,
let's give him a clock, Logan. We'll be right back, guys, after this break.
Consumers often
Logan.
ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us. We're going to go back to Aaron, but first we have brand new audio coming and video and audio coming from the Secretary of Homeland Security, Christy Greiner, on the terror cells in the U.S. You don't have audio, Logan? Oh, I normally don't play. Things that I don't have a chance to hear. I try not to play things I don't have a chance to hear in advance. But this is just coming out. So is Dalton on the board at VCY? Just keep your finger on the dump button just in case. She isn't prone to cursing, so I don't think we're going to have that. But I would like to hear, and I want you to hear, what the Secretary of Homeland Security is saying about these terror cells. Here we go. I'm going to hear it for the first time with you.
Yeah, quick question on
Sure.
Iran. As we have currently missiles raining down on a U.S. force in Qatar, what is your biggest concern when it comes to safety for Americans?
Well, the President of the United States is making some very important decisions right now. My responsibility is to secure the homeland and to do all I can to make sure that we're identifying threats that may be here, what we can do to get in front of them before anything could happen to the population that live here in the United States, but also to work with our local governors and law enforcement to make sure that they recognize potential threats or suspicious activity. So that's what we have not seen any currently, but I do know that I'm going to leave here and go get some intelligence briefings and need to get into a secure area for some new information. So I'll know more later.
Thank you.
Is DHS particularly concerned about the 1,500 internationals that entered during the Biden administration, or were arrested rather, and then half of whom are within the U.S.?
No, we did see thousands of people come into our country over an open border under the Biden administration that came from the Middle East. Have always been aware of the fact that some of these folks that may have come into our country could have potentially been radicalized. And so that is why we continue every day to go out and identify individuals that could be a threat to our homeland. And we'll continue to work to do that. We recognize that as tensions escalate, that means that there could be more potential for threats here at home. And so that's why we're at an elevated threat right now, and we'll continue to stay diligent.
What about ahead of events like July 4th? Is there a particular concern ahead of major events like that, sleeper cells?
There's been concern since I took this job. We have incredible threats to this country from many nations that are enemies to the United States of America. It's not just Iran, it's North Korea, Russia, China. Consistently, every single day, are trying to threaten our way of life. So my job is to do all that I can to protect our country before something bad does happen.
When we talk about sleeper cells, a lot of the past, like in terms of hits on the president and other U.S. officials, those have been carried out, at least according to prosecutors, by individuals hired here, not sleeper cells. Is there a concern of something
We've seen
different?
both. We've seen some from overseas and some that have been here, maybe gone overseas for a short period of time, become radicalized and come back, or individuals that are right here in the United States. So we have to watch for all of it and to be diligent on all of it, and we'll continue to do so.
And what information do we know right now in regards to those sleeper cells? How is DHS tracking and following and seeking information in regards to
I can't necessarily share that with you, but I will tell you that we are continuing to evaluate every single threat and to proactively go after them before they do anything or take any activity.
Are we changing security policies at ports of entry since Saturday?
I can't talk about that.
Secretary, what's your message to Americans who are seeing what's going on overseas and are concerned about an attack in the homeland? What is your message to them?
What I would tell the people that live in this country is to be grateful that they woke up this morning in the United States of America. Because we woke up here, are more blessed than 99% of the people in the world, because we live in a country where freedom and liberty is embraced, and that's what our president was protecting by going after specific nuclear sites in Iran. Was something that was non-negotiable, and he did not do anything except take out the potential for that nuclear weapon to be utilized. This country is leading the world and has been for many years, and will continue to do so as long as we still have strong leadership like President Trump's in the White House.
Are Americans safer today because of the actions on Saturday?
I believe that the president worked aggressively to make sure that we are safer, and will be into the future as well.
All right. I want to thank her for doing that, because frankly, we just heard more from her than I think we have from any official here in the United States about terror cells. And that's exactly what I was pounding the table and desk about all last week, is where is the briefing and warning of the American people on this? If you're going to do something like this, then warn the American people of the threats inside our country. And she just did that. And so thank you, Secretary Noem, for speaking, walking up to the press, taking time, answering the questions. And she said she's going to go to a secure area so she can get new briefings on what sounds like, again, some new information. And she talked about the fact that every day our country is facing threats from hostile actors and nations. So again, for those who say, oh, Howse, you're scaring people. It's doom and gloom. Don't scare people. Look, if you're scared, I'm sorry, because I'm not sitting around being scared. You know why? Because number one, there's not much I can do about it. But number two, I've done all I can do preparation-wise. If the grid goes down, power goes out, I've done all I can do. And I also understand if I don't, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I win either way. I win either way. And so do you if you're a believer. But it's not to scare people. And if people are scared, then that's their issue. Maybe you haven't prepared enough. Maybe you're in a position financially where you really can't prepare. And that's where I've been, again, talking for so many years about, do our churches need multi-million-dollar buildings with all the softball fields and everything else they have? No, there's nothing wrong with those things in and of themselves. But that's not the function of the New Testament church. To have softball fields and the biggest gymnasiums and the fanciest equipment. It's not our job. But our job is to take care of the widows and the orphans if they don't have family to take care of them. Now, if they have family to take care of them, the Bible says they better take care of them. For he who does not provide for his family is worse than an unbeliever. But if they don't, then it falls on us, the local New Testament church, to help those widows, those orphans, the single mother. How many churches are ready to help them? How many of them are ready to help the senior on a fixed income? Not many. I remember several years ago, a church in our area was going to launch out on a $14 million building. And I said, you can go do that. You're debt-free now, but what do you think you're going to do? If we build it, they will come. I'm sorry, that mentality worked in the 80s. It doesn't work now. And all you need to see is all these seeker-sensitive churches are renting high school gymnasiums and high school auditoriums, and they're packing them in. Not for the right reasons, but it proves you don't have to go build a big building to say, oh, look how fancy we are. We got something going on over here. Look at our big building. I said that kind of marketing doesn't work anymore. So go build a $14 million building. It will not increase your audience, so-called audience, because that's what many of them were looking for, not disciples. And it didn't for this church I'm talking about in the Mid-South. Didn't increase at all. Built a auditorium, seats over 1,000 people. It sits half empty most of the time. Almost all the time. Really all the time. Half empty. Never could fill it. Except for a few major events they would do, and then people would pour in. Other than that, no. The same group that was in the old building, debt-free, now has got a big debt they had to pay off for a building that now looks like half empty. But that was the mentality. And I asked the pastor of that church, how prepared are you to help the widows and the orphans and the single moms if the grid goes down? Do you have cots? Do you have freeze-dried food? Are you prepared to use your building to bring in the winter the older people whose power's gone out and they're going to die without without heat? Do you have blankets? Are you ready to boil water, make freeze-dried food, take care of people, take care of your flock? No. He looked at me like I was from Mars. But they got a big, fancy building sitting half empty on Sundays. So this is not to scare people. It's to prepare people. And most of all, to prepare the church, the real church, believers. Could be the finest hour for the church if we act correctly. That's one reason why I have like an over 2-year supply of freeze-dried food, because I may have to barter with it, but I also may have some people I got to help because I can't turn away or not help a senior citizen or a single mom with children. So to those who say, oh, doom and gloom, scaring people. Well, if you're scared, then do a spiritual inventory. Do a physical inventory. Because guess what? When you're prepared and you've done all you can do, you know what? You're not nearly as afraid because it's like, well, I've done all I can humanly do. My family, we've been prepping and preparing since 2013. We don't go to bed at night scared. We've done all we can do. And that's all God is asking us to do, right? Do what we can do. And then we trust him. And we also know, as I said, you die, you die. That we win either way, as I said. But to the naysayers, the complainers, those who want to call and leave voicemails or send emails, look, if you can't handle the truth, then you got a heart problem, because Christians should love the truth. Aaron, what do you make of what I just said and this report by our Homeland Secretary? She's going to a secure area to get new information on threats to the homeland.
No question about the day, the generation we're living in, Brannon. They're so uncertain these days. Grids falling down. Just the last 48 hours in Iran, all their internet, their Wi-Fi was out. People hacking in. We don't know what's around the corner, and we don't know where these sleeper cells and these terrorists have been planted. Hopefully, the military intelligence, just like they were with this attack on the American bases, Brannon, one of the bases was cleared out a few days ago because of the military intelligence. So hopefully, this new generation of military intelligence will be on the ball. They'll be one step ahead, and we all will be one step ahead. The role of the prophet in the scriptures and the role of the watchman on the wall was to blow the shofar, was to warn the people, to get the people ready, to get them on their toes, and to get them to move into action. That's all they could do. If the people didn't listen to the blow, then they missed the boat. And so that's all you can do. That's all I can do, is warn people and prepare them as much as we can. The story of Noah, he prepared an ark and for the saving of his family while the floods came. And the physical sign, Brannon, that rainbow in the sky. I'm not talking about the different rainbow colored flag. I'm talking about the rainbow in the sky. That's taken from the Bible. That's taken from a promise. And that shows us that historically, God flooded the earth. He said he would, and he did it. So we need to take the words of the prophets, the words of the scriptures serious. And we know what's happening in the Middle East is just, it's like, what did Jesus say about the last days? He said, when you look in the sky and you see clouds, you know it's going to rain. And then he said, when you see these signs happening, wars, rumors of wars, you know that the end is drawing nigh. And look what's happening in the Middle East. I can't keep up with the news, Brannon. Every 5 minutes it's changing. It's unbelievable.
Well, Saudi Arabia has now come out and said that Iran's attack of U.S. bases in Qatar are unacceptable and cannot be justified. Folks, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts this weekend on what happened? Some are for it. Some, like many on our panel Saturday night, said unless there was, as you just heard Colonel Rob say, unless there was an existential threat against our country, not Israel, an existential threat against our country, we should not be stoking the fires of the Middle East. Now, I understand Aaron and many other Jews there in Israel, a little nation the size of New Jersey, want all the help they can get. So I understand that. I said that to my wife. I'd be cheering on too if I was going up and down to the bunker 5 times a night, or October 7th happened. I understand their position, but what do you think, Americans? Phone line's open. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. What are your thoughts, Americans, on what just went down on Saturday afternoon American time, Saturday evening American time, depending on, I guess, if you're on the West Coast versus the East Coast? 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. Let's go to Christine in Wisconsin, line 1. Hi, Christine.
Hi there. I just wanted to say two things here. I think the timing is a little bit odd. We've been hearing for years. I've been following this for, 30 years. They've been saying, they almost have a nuclear weapon. A couple weeks away. That's odd, this timing, I have to say. And you know that the Muslims, they do not want democracy, so we have no business trying to do any kind of regime change. I hope to God that he does keep his word with that. But I'll tell you something, Brannon, the hatred for Israel amongst Christians, they wouldn't say they hate Israel, but it is terrifying. We tried to pray on Sunday for our leadership with this impending war footing, and they looked at us like we had a third eye. My son was in his ABF, and nobody would even pray for it.
Wow.
So there's a problem in the church with keeping their heads in the sand, firmly planted.
Christine, I agree 100%. And this is what's got me concerned in part, and I've shared that with Aaron as well, that if we go get involved over there, if there's not a national security direct implication and threat, we go over there, get involved, we stoke the fires, we have terrorist attacks here at home. President Trump can just forget the midterms. He can forget the rest of his term really getting anything done. And the anti-Semitism you think is bad now will escalate, and they'll be blaming, the whole world will be blaming Israel's the one that got us into this. Look how quick they turned on Israel after October 7th. And that wasn't Israel. And yet look how many filled the streets to join Hamas and wear the keffiyehs and wave the Hamas flag. What do you think is going to happen if they have terrorist attacks in the country, and then the anti-Semites start saying, well, this is all Israel's fault. So yes, there are so many things to be concerned about, particularly when you can't even see the modern church in America, much of it, stand up and say, hey, we're not putting up with this anti-Semitism. Does that mean I agree with everything the Israeli government does? No, but we're not tolerating the anti-Semitism, people. We are going to pray for peace, which is really praying for the millennial kingdom to come. But they don't understand that, because Bible prophecy has become a dirty word. And yet again, last night, I taught Revelation 17. It's now at worldviewtube.com for those that missed it. At WorldviewTube, teaching on Revelation chapter 17. Why the mother of harlots? Why is Babylon called the mother of harlots? Logan said our numbers last night were very high, higher than normal. Well, imagine that. The world is interested in Bible prophecy. We got a secular TV network talking to us about coming on board with them, a big network, not Fox, wouldn't go there. But a big network talking about us coming on and doing a show for them on the weekends. Well, no wonder. Conservative networks that are conservative right networks that are Christian friendly understand there's a lot of people wanting to understand this through the lens of Bible prophecy. Why last night our numbers were higher than normal. Thank you, Christine. Tim, line 4. Hi, Tim. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, thanks for taking my call, Brannon. I was keeping up with what you guys were talking about on the panels from last weekend and from this Saturday, and I just have to totally agree with Sharam when he was pointing out that keeping the scope of the things that need to happen and take place for the end time prophecies to become fulfilled seems to be a little lost in the conversation of what we're doing right or wrong, or supporting Israel or not, or how that's all going.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, it does seem that we're too willing to draw a line in supporting Israel. Where is the red line, or what? Do we support them all the way or not? I mean, this is the first time they've actually gone ahead and taken an initiative to do the kind of maneuver militarily that they did.
I think, Tim, that's a great question. And I think the answer very quickly, so I can run to David in Florida, is that Colonel Manus put it. There has to be our national interest before we put troops in the air, in the cockpits, or on the ground at risk. Where is our national interest? We would not expect Israel to fly planes over here and bomb Iran and the CCP for us on our border. We wouldn't ask them to. We wouldn't expect them to. And I'm sure they would say, no, where's our national interest in that? But it's got to be an issue of consistency from Ukraine and Russia to Israel and Iran. Where is the national threat? sell them equipment, give them in technology, give them satellite, all that we've said consistently. But you're right. Where is the red line? But most, sadly, Christians are going rah, rah, rah. The CIA knows how to manipulate the Christians. They did it after 9/11. And they will wave the flag, show the bombers, and get everybody going patriotically. And you're like, wait a minute. Why are we going after Afghanistan? If Saudi Arabia was and maybe Iran was behind 9/11, as we're told, why didn't we deal with Saudi Arabia and Iran? Why are we going into Iraq? Why are we going into Afghanistan? Because they will manipulate the American church. So and then they expect those pastors to preach those sermons. So we have got to decide, like you said, where's the red line? And then you're absolutely right, as Sharon brought up Saturday night. We may not agree with everything that's happening, but it is setting the stage for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled, right? God uses even the sinful choices of man to set the stage to accomplish his purpose. He lets them do what's in their heart. Sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he does. But you're right. Very good call. Let's go to David in Florida, line 2. Hi, David.
Hey, Brannon, how are you today?
Great.
It's great to talk to you again.
You too, David.
Hey, just a couple of thoughts went across my head. The first one, in Matthew, when Jesus is talking about, nation rising against nation and wars and rumors of wars, remember, he said these things must happen, and I think about that and I say, okay. And then, because trust me, one part of me wants to pound the bully into the sand.
Right.
But then another part of me says, yeah, but at what cost? And then I think to myself, well, perhaps maybe this is why the Lord saved Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania there from a bullet, getting into his head. Maybe because he was the only one who would be in a position to have the courage to do this. I pray that the Lord's will is done. And again, I agree with you. I don't, like you say, I don't necessarily agree with everything that the Israeli government does, but I support the Jewish people because that's our duty as Christians.
Absolutely. Great call, David. Thank you, David. Let me ask you, Aaron, 10 seconds. You understand our position that we're making here in America, right?
Yes.
You get that as an Israeli. But we also understand why you guys, the size of New Jersey, want America to come help you out, particularly after October 7th.
Of course. But you know what? It is in America's national interest to help us. It is. And that's maybe where we would disagree.
We need to go into that. Let's go into that more tomorrow, maybe, guys. All right, take care. Stay tuned for Crosstalk. And Aaron is back with us. Aaron, pick it up there. We want the VCY audience to hear this too, but tell us why you believe it's in our national interest.
Well, firstly, if you want to go back to the founding of the United States, you know more about it than I, but the Puritans, based on the Judeo-Christian values of the Bible, Genesis 12, I will bless those that bless you, to help Israel, the older brother. That is going to invoke a blessing. That is going to bring blessing on the United States, number one. Number two, and this is more from a financial perspective, and this is why I keep saying I believe that the United States, Donald Trump coming over to this region, I believe it's more than just helping the older brother. I think there's vacuums here, and he is fulfilling the words of the Lord. Blessed are the peacemakers, and I really do believe that by coming in and like a big sheriff and trying to crush these bullies, and that's what we've done, Brannon. Do you know this is the first time that Israel can really say we are no longer living under an existential threat anymore. From the rebirth of the state of Israel in 1948, just because we declared independence, we've still been living always with that fear of being snuffed out by our surrounding enemies. Well, that's what we've been living since 46 years ago with the Islamic Revolution, the threats of the Ayatollahs. Well, that has now been crushed. And so there's a new freedom, there's a new liberty. By the way, it's not just Saudi Arabia that have condemned the Iranians in the last half an hour. It's the Qataris, it's the Lebanese, it's the United Arab Emirates. And this is because Donald Trump has come, America has come, they've done what they've done. They are being actually, and they may not look it, but you are being peacemakers here. I believe that invokes a blessing. Now, you get the lefties, you get people with twisted minds who are saying, how can you dare say that America are being peacemakers? Well, they are. That's what that, but to be a peacemaker, you've got to sometimes go to war and you've got to crush the enemy. And you've got to pay the price as far as backlash and twisted comments and ways that people interpret it. And that's the price. But in fact, people are saying that Trump, he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for what he's done. Can you imagine?
He says he won't get it because only lefties get it.
Well, let's see. Can you imagine if Bibi Netanyahu got the Nobel Peace Prize? That would be astounding. But in essence, Brannon, that's what America and Israel are bringing about. We are snuffing out, we actually have snuffed out the biggest threat in the world, Iran and Hezbollah and all these cells. These are the people who are feeding them, the Iranians. So I think it's an incredible work that you guys have done. And I understand, though, from your point of view, and if you don't want to get the glory, well, then don't take it.
So, of course, the pushback over here is, yes, but Genesis 3 doesn't say I have to have my kid die on the battlefield in Israel.
And you know what? That's the same with my children and everyone's children here. It's the price of living in an evil world with evil people. And let me tell you, our victory here against the Iranians, do you know, I think that could be a real start in a war against jihadism and Islamic fundamentalism. If Donald Trump and his team, along with Israel and the free world, would see this as an opportunity, as a vacuum to really start to attack other areas in the world where these fundamentalist cell groups and radicals are trying to go around bullying Western nations, this could be an opportunity to really crush, because I'll tell you why. I believe when you look at the Iranians today, how are they interpreting a little nation, Israel, has just defeated Hezbollah, Hamas, the Iranians, the Houthis? How? Whereas the 90 million people living in Iran, with planning this bombing, planning all of this for decades, and they've just been defeated in about 10 days. How do they interpret that? Are they thanking their God Allah, or are they seriously considering their own religion and their own faith?
I pray they are, but I do think what you're saying helps us understand how the foundation is being laid for that coalition in Ezekiel 38 and 39 that comes against Israel, because Israel's now going to be seen as so powerful that it's going to take a coalition to come against them, not one nation. Closing comment?
Well, it may be a coalition of Islamic nations, but it may not be. It may be just powerful nations that are after resources. I don't know, but
there you go.
We know it's.
We'll get another report from Aaron, lighttothenationsministry.com, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Take care.
Colonel Rob Maness says a